Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Welcome to episode number 245 of the Full-Time FBA Show. This week, we're going to talk about how to source inventory that you know is going to sell within 30 days. And that's a pretty exciting topic. And to talk about it with me is my wife, Rebecca. What's up, Rebecca?
Not much. This topic is one that we love to talk about, one that we love to teach on, because if you're going to be sourcing inventory, you want to make sure that it's going to sell quickly and successfully. And 30 days is a good mark for judging whether you've got inventory that's going to meet those requirements. So let's talk about it. Whenever we purchase products to sell on Amazon, typically Amazon sellers will assume that the product will sell quickly and for profit, but it's just not always the case that that's going to happen. You assume that it will, you want it to, but you need to make sure. You need to do your research and find out. And sometimes Amazon sellers send inventory to Amazon that just sits there on the Amazon warehouse shelves, on your digital shelves in your Amazon inventory for weeks, sometimes months, and it just never seems to sell. And during that time, the monthly storage fees for each item that's not selling, you continually get charged for that as a seller. And even that charge will start to increase over time. And then eventually those storage fees add up to take away all of your profits.
Boo.
Boo. Sometimes you might actually end up losing money on a sale when you would have made money if it had just sold sooner. So what can we do about that? That's what we're going to talk about for the rest of this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show.
So Rebecca and I have been selling on Amazon now for over a decade, and we make it our goal to sell out of our inventory within 30 days of that inventory hitting the warehouse. But how do we do that? How do we do that when we're sourcing, and what do we do after their product goes live on Amazon to make sure it sells within 30 days? Well, I'm glad you asked. So let's get into it. First, let's talk about the sourcing side of this strategy. What do we look at when we're considering the items that we're going to sell on Amazon? When we're sourcing, that ensures that the inventory that we send to Amazon will most likely sell out in 30 days. The number one tool that we use to help us make an educated decision on whether or not we're going to buy it to sell on Amazon or not is Keepa. If you're brand new to Keepa, welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show, because we talk about it pretty much all the time on this podcast. But if you're brand new to Keepa, I'm about to rock your world, because Keepa is the tool that shows us the pricing history and sales velocity history of almost every item on Amazon. And with that information, when we read and understand it correctly, it can give us a pretty strong glimpse into the future of what pricing trends and sales velocity trends we can expect. Keepa can show us per inventory item the data of our Amazon seller competition, and we can see if more sellers are jumping on the listing, which usually leads to lower prices in the future, or if the competition levels are steady, which usually means the prices are going to remain steady, or if the competition levels are lowering, which usually leads to increase in pricing if we're still in stock with that item, which means we're going to make more money.
Using Keepa correctly really can be a game changer with your Amazon business. And if you're new to Keepa, you can get a free Intro to Keepa training video by going to fulltimefba.com/read Keepa. And if you're ready to take your beginner Keepa knowledge to the next level, you can finally master the skill of reading a Keepa graph by taking our course, The Reseller's Guide to Keepa, found at fulltimefba.com/Keepa course. So back to sourcing an item that we know will sell in about 30 days. When we are doing retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, or wholesale sourcing, we almost always look at the Keepa graph of every item we are considering selling on Amazon. When Keepa, we can know with confidence that an item's price will remain profitable and that it will sell somewhat soon. For example, if I look at a Keepa graph and see that the price history has remained pretty solid over the past 3 to 6 months, then I can feel pretty secure that as long as I'm matching the current buy box price, that pricing will continue to be profitable in the days ahead. And then I look at the sales rank data from the last 3 to 6 months, and I can see how often and how consistently an item sells on Amazon. then I can know that I can expect that same kind of sales velocity if I send that item to Amazon too.
For an example, to understand what we're talking about, think about this. We know that Amazon likes to rotate the buy box between multiple sellers within a certain percentage of the current buy box price, and then about every 15 minutes or so, the buy box gets rotated between like-priced sellers. There's no percentage stated by Amazon, but most Amazon sellers have stated that the buy box rotates between the sellers who are priced around 2 to 3 percentage points away from the current buy box price. So say an item on Amazon has a buy box price of $30, and there's currently 4 sellers who are all priced relatively close to the $30 buy box price. So you should expect that each seller would get a turn in the buy box one at a time. But if you also join that competition and you're also selling the item priced around $30, then the number of sellers sharing the buy box moves from 4 sellers to 5 sellers. And the buy box rotation would remain even for all the sellers priced around $30, but obviously with more sellers, that means less time for each seller in the buy box. But you still get valuable time in the buy box, and that's the goal. Have as much time as possible in the buy box, because over 80% of Amazon sales come from the buy box. That little corner in an Amazon sales page that says buy it now or add to cart, that's the buy box, and we want as much time there as possible.
One tool that really helps us understand what to expect when it comes to sharing the buy box is Helium 10. They have a really great sales estimator that will help you to see how many different sellers are sharing that buy box at any given time and what kind of monthly sales they can expect. It's a tool that is attached to their revenue calculator with Helium 10, and you can see what your profit would be. You can see how many sellers are going to be sharing that buy box, what you can kind of toggle with it to see if you were to add yourself into that mix, what kind of monthly sales would you be able to expect, those kind of things. It's really handy. And that helps you to kind of get an idea of what it would be like if you were to join the competition, what that buy box would look like and what kind of sales you could expect. You can find out more about Helium 10 at fulltimefba.com/helium10, HELIUM10. And we also will include in the show notes that link along with 2 different coupon codes for that product. Using this tool correctly will help you know how fast or how slow your inventory might sell, and it will help you understand how deep you should go on a purchase.
And our show notes page for you, if you just want to stop everything right now, fulltimefba.com/245. You can find more information about Helium 10 and the coupon codes, as well as more stuff at that link. And like I said before, it's our goal that all of our inventory sells within 30 days of it becoming active on Amazon. So what do we do to help increase our sales after it's left us and it's now live on Amazon? Well, in the best case scenario, when the item is priced competitively, that it sells on its own in about a week or 2. But we know that doesn't always happen to all of our inventory. So what can we do to make sure that the item sells before the first 30 days have passed? Well, our second next best tool that we love to use is an automatic repricer called Be Cool. We've talked about Be Cool before in episodes 47, episodes 136, and sprinkled throughout other episodes, but basically Be Cool helps our inventory's price stay competitive and helps us win more time in the buy box. And no, that doesn't always mean that it automatically lowers our price. In fact, in certain situations, Be Cool automatically raises our price. Anytime our lower price competition sells out, Be Cool bumps our price up. So if our inventory doesn't sell around the 2-week mark, we usually set up a specific set of repricing rules through Be Cool that we came up with that help our prices always remain competitive and, more importantly, help our inventory win the buy box. Like we've said before, over 80% of sales come from the buy box, and we want our items there as well. Well, Be Cool paired with our specific repricing rules helps us get faster sales after our inventory goes live on Amazon. And in those first 30 days, it's a magic time, and our inventory sells while it's there at the warehouse very quickly. And if you're interested in trying out Be Cool with a free trial, go to fulltimefba.com/becool. That's BQOOL. And if you want to get your hands on our special repricing rules that we mentioned in this episode, you can go to fulltimefba.com/contact. Send me a message that you signed up for Be Cool and asking for the free copy of our repricing rules. And my assistant will send you our Be Cool pricing rules as well as different ways that you can set up your Be Cool account so that you can maximize the time during your free trial.
So when you pair using Keepa for sourcing and Be Cool after your product is listed on Amazon, then you greatly increase the chances of your product selling. Or if you have multiples in stock, you increase your chances of that product selling out within 30 days. And that leads me to the topic that we're going to discuss next when it comes to selling on Amazon. Let's say you have the opportunity to buy multiples of a product to sell on Amazon. If you're clearance sourcing, garage sale, or thrift store sourcing, you're probably not going to be able to go deep on an inventory purchase. But when you're focused on replens via RA, OA, wholesale sourcing, you probably have that option of going deep, which is another way of saying buying multiples of a product. So how many should you buy? How deep should you go? 4 items, 10, 200. Wouldn't that be awesome to have 200 of something in stock and just be selling them on a regular basis? Well, that all depends on the data that you're looking at. Again, we use Keepa to help with this, and we basically will try to order a 30-day supply and nothing more. We look at how fast or slow the sales velocity is for a product, and then we do the math for what a 30-day supply should look like. And if we're the only seller, then we can send in that 30-day supply, however many you're going to sell in 30 days. And if we're not the only seller priced competitively for that item, we divide up 30 days of sales for that item by the number of competitively priced sellers, and we send in 30 days worth of supply for one seller in the buy box. It could be that we just send in 2 of an item, or it could be 200. It all depends on how many are going to sell within 30 days total.
Now, we will warn you, unless you're comfortable going that deep or going that many multiples of a purchase, hundreds of items in an inventory deep, I would definitely do some test runs first before going that deep on a purchase. Do some test runs of lower quantities before I invest that much of my sourcing capital into that high number of inventory. But once I know that it really will sell soon after I send it to Amazon, then I'd up my sourcing buying to go deeper and send in more multiples. Again, we send in a 30-day supply of those items. That way, mostly because if it does not sell as fast as we expected, then we only sent in what we thought was a 30-day supply, even though we actually sent in a 60-day supply. But at least we didn't send in a 12-month supply. That would be the worst. On the other hand, if we had sent in what we thought was a 30-day supply and it only lasted 2 weeks, that's a great problem to have. We just restock that supply as soon as possible and send more in the second time around. Like I said before on this podcast, we experiment, we test things out. Don't jump too far ahead in the deep end, but be safe. Test things out and learn. Make some mistakes and learn. Try it again and learn. Always be learning and growing, and that's how you're really going to learn how to grow your Amazon business the right way.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. This has been episode number 245, so you can find the show notes at fulltimefba.com/245. In those show notes, you'll find all of the links and the coupon codes that were mentioned in this episode.
And next week on the show, we're going to talk about the only thing better than higher profits. You might not think there is, but there is something better than higher profits, and we'll talk about it next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.